Hi everyone, this is Ruth Snyder. I'm here to show you how to make pie crust today. Making pie crust brings back a lot of good memories for me. I spent hours in my grandma's kitchen with her, and I'm not going to teach you exactly the way my grandma did because I don't know if you have grandmas that taught you recipes like this. She had a certain bowl that she would make her pie crust in, flour up to here, and then you put shortening in until it feels like this. I'll give you a little more clear directions. So I'm only going to make one double crust pie. So I have already measured 1.25 cups of flour into the container, to the bowl. Then my recipe is called the Never Fail Pie Crust. I've been told it's fail proof, so you can let me know if you can prove that wrong. So 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, and then I need 1/2 cup of lard. That was one thing Grandma insisted on. When you make pie crust, you must use lard because that's the only thing that makes it taste good. So we need 1/2 cup of lard. And these handy dandy boxes have the measuring on them, so you just have to slice a piece in. So one thing Grandma drilled into me was, when you're making pie crust, one of the most important steps is making sure that you mix your lard into your flour. I'm assuming most of you are familiar with a pastry blender. It's a very important tool when you're making pie crust. So basically you just chop the lard into small pieces, mix it with the flour, and it takes a little bit of work to do it. Sometimes you have to use your knife, scrape it off, keep going. So I'm just continuing to mix the shortening into the flour. And as I said, my grandma always stressed that this is one of the most important parts of your pie crust making, because you need your lard distributed evenly in your flour. Your lard is what makes your pie crust short, as they say, so flaky and crunchy, not tough. So just about there. Clean this off one more time. Then I will show you the consistency. So I'm going to bring this close to the camera. That's what it looks like. So there are some chunks of lard in there that you can see. So the one thing that this recipe has that some recipes don't have is you always add water to pie crust. Other recipes do not include egg. And those of you that like to bake know that egg is a good glue to hold things together. So maybe that's part of the secret of this recipe, making it a never fail solution. And then you just mix in your, oh, I forgot one thing. Another thing that they add in this recipe is vinegar. So basically just enough. If I was making the whole recipe, I would need a full tablespoon. I don't need that much for the amount of flour that I'm using. I'm just going to try to keep my counter clean. Okay, so now I'm going to put the liquid in. with the flour and the lard and just mix it. So you can mix mostly with a utensil, but you will need to get your hands dirty to finish the process. See, I might have to add a little bit of flour because I'm cutting my recipe down, but I have to use a whole egg, so I need a little bit more flour. Anyway, you should end up with a very nice pliable dough. I'm add a little bit of flour because this seems a little bit sticky. And I find, I don't know, my grandma said that you shouldn't work pie crust very much, but I find with this recipe, it's quite forgiving. All right, ready to roll out the first part of my pie crust. So I'm just gonna make sure my counter is clean. I should have done that before I started. And then sprinkle a little bit of flour on the counter so that the pie crust doesn't stick. So I'm going to use just over half for the bottom of the pie, since the bottom half is the bigger half. So I just form it into like a ball, put it onto the flour. And I need some more flour so it doesn't stick to the rolling pin. And roll it out. So yeah, this a little bit more flour on it. And make it as round as you possibly can, but don't be too fussy because you're always going to trim your pie crust. Just bring my pie plate over here. When you're taking your pie crust up, I find if I just fold it in half, should have put a little bit more flour underneath. So it's sticky a little bit, but if you're gentle, you can still get it up. And you're going to put it in the bottom. Make sure it drapes over the sides nicely. Right, so I need to put more flour down so the next part doesn't stick too bad. And after I'm going to cheat and use a pre-made pie filling. But you can always make your own pie filling. Just focusing on the crust today. And you will find that your temperature of your kitchen does affect your pie crust sometimes. But like I say, this recipe is quite forgiving. So if you can make it fail, you'll have to let me know. So I'm just going to get my filling, put it in. Cherry pie. Can't you bake a cherry pie, Billy boy? Oh, what do you think? I think live presentations will be much better than the video ones, but that's my personal opinion. Because it's kind of boring talking to yourself while you're baking. And people can't ask questions. All right, another little trick when you're putting your pie crust together, you just put a little bit of water on your finger around the edge. It helps this crust stick together better. Sometimes I'll just put water in a container, but I didn't do that this time, so just running the water. All right, so there's the two crusts together. And then I find it easy to just use a fork. And go around. Now this pie crust is very short, which means it's very stretchy. If it's too short, it's hard to work with. If you find it too sticky, then just add some more flour. I think it will be okay. So I usually just go around the edge with a fork. And then get a knife. My favorite knives are busy. And just slice the extra pie crust off. I prefer a sharp knife. I usually use a paring knife. I don't usually use this big a knife. I'm just watching my time. Looks like I got about a minute left. I think we should be okay. So yeah, just cut all the way around. Extra off. I find it takes about a cup of flour to make enough pie crust for one double. So 2 pie crusts to make 1 pie. Put it that way. Because you'll see that I have a fair bit of pie crust left. It's enough to make a single crust. For something else, maybe a chocolate pudding or pie or something. Chocolate and whipped cream. And then I just put a fancy design on the top. And voila, the pie is ready to go in the oven. So thanks for joining my session today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have fun making pie.